Welcome to Alpha Book Club. This is actually our online interactive book club for our Alpha community members. I'm Maude Garrett, and joining me as always, we've got the lovely Rachel Heine right here. She is the editor-in-chief of Nerdist.com. Love your sweater. Everyone give some love in the comments because the comments are going off and everyone's so positive and lovely anyway. How are you?
I'm great.
Yeah, it's a full glass.
It's a full glass, and I'm glad we're wrapping up this book. It's sad.
And also joining, that was a big sip there.
A big gulp.
Hector Navarro.
Yeah, hold up that book.
Oh, wait, we gotta do it here. There you go.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about this one. A bit of a quick recap. Who wants to talk through what the last week was all about?
Yeah, I think Rachel and I could tag team that probably.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. Orson Welles is George Orwell. Orson Welles is a filmmaker, not related to this at all. George Orwell's this guy who was like really mad at Nazis, so he wrote this book.
Absolutely,
rightfully so. So he wrote
And
this
communism.
book to warn humanity about the dangers of power, totalitarian regimes,
There he is.
men
Yeah,
who thirst for power, the snuffing out of free thought and free speech and free press and all of these different things. So he wrote 1984, which is the most depressing, bleak book ever made.
Well, it's the most extreme version, I think,
Yeah.
of all of these things coming to fruition and being successful. So you have people being literally tortured and brainwashed. You have them not only losing their minds, but losing their own control of their own emotions. They don't know what's real. They don't know what's false. So we have our hero, Winston.
No, our poor son of a bitch.
Yeah, our
protagonist,
our main character, who, if you read through the end of the book, some things happen, but basically who does not feel an allegiance to the party in his heart, but he lives in a society where they have hatred, they have weekly, and hourly moments dedicated to hating the other, to hating anyone who's different. He is part of the sort of destruction of a free press and of knowledge and of truth by rewriting history every time it changes. And he falls down this path of falling in love with someone else who is also against the party, trying to find others who would fight with him against the party, and he is, in the last section, caught.
Yes. He's looking to revolt. There has to be something more than what this world is, and that's what kind of keeps him going. There has to be more than this. There has to be people fighting this. Even though we're completely monitored and we're so restricted in our lives and we're lied to every single day to the point you just have to eat it and believe it. He was like, there has to be others. And he thought that he had that in Julia, which he did big time. Julia was a breath of fresh air. Julia was hope. Julia was some hanky panks, thanks. And O'Brien, who was a fellow colleague, who he
suspected.
Yes, exactly. O'Brien kind of cast a little line out there. Winston grabbed it. O'Brien wheeled on in. And for a fleeting moment, we actually did believe that O'Brien was the savior and was the hope and was the in to see change and to see things get better. How wrong we were. In this part of the book, I like to say the first half is setting up the bleak world.
And it does fantastic world building. It does fantastic world building. One thing that I want to mention too before we start are the proles.
Yes.
Which is the group of lower class, the proletariats, the lower class people. They're poor. They have relationships where they're like, basically they get away with everything. They're allowed to be married to one another. They fight, they squabble, they have children, they raise their children, and they have a different set of rules. And the rest of the society, the people that are in the inner circle or in the higher upper class, upper crusty circle, think nothing of them. And yet they outnumber everybody else in every other group.
Yes,
and
I've got the stats here. 85%
are the proles.
Yes.
And they're poor and they sweep their own steps and they sing songs and they engage in all of these things that are illegal to everybody else.
It's like the orphanage in Annie.
Yes.
It is a hard knock life.
You know how this
is.
could be improved?
Musical.
Oh my gosh. That's double speak. That's double speak. No, that would be awful. Because you're like dancing, you're singing along like, oh God.
Saddest, long, strung out like symphony when everyone's falling asleep.
I told you guys
crying.
before, but I listened to the score from Children of Men while reading this.
Oh,
Big mistake. It just added It just added the worst.
At least Children of Men has a beacon of hope in it.
Exactly. But
doesn't.
just going back to the proles for a second, I think that Orwell's commentary on that, where the characters continue to say, if there were ever to be a change in this world, it would be the proles. They would have to rise up. And then what do we learn about them, or what do we learn that the rest of the world thinks of them in the third section? It's bleak. It's bleak. Yeah. They think they will never rise up. They are fine being stuck where they are.
Yeah.
They are static. They are content, and they're stupid, and they're fine being content. And I think that's Orwell's commentary on anybody reading this book.
Wow.
Going, if you read this book and you see yourself not in the inner circle, because you would think you would never be that type of person. You see yourself as a prole, as somebody that's like, well, I could get by in this world if I would be allowed to sing and drink and bet and gamble and live my life.
Who were the happiest people in the book?
They were the happiest people, but they were
the woman
blissfully
singing,
unaware.
hanging out her washing.
They
she
were
singing.
blissfully unaware. Ignorance is bliss, and yet Orwell is saying if the change is going to happen, it's going to be with them. They hold all the power. They outnumber everybody else, and yet they're never going to do shit.
No, they don't even know they have power.
There are a lot of parallels to sort of the awakening that many people have gone through over the past few months as well.
I voted for Trump, but I didn't think
or even people who didn't vote or who didn't think it was going to happen
Yeah.
or any of those things where you didn't have to worry about any of the issues because it didn't impact you, and so now it is starting to impact everyone. And I think that's everyone, even people who didn't vote for him, who weren't paying attention to Black Lives Matter or anything else that was going on, as long as it didn't directly impact you. And you have to, this is practicing empathy and using your emotions and caring for people and having that hope and trying to instill that in other people, which we don't get in the book, but hopefully you leave being like, oh my God, I have to do this in my own life because I don't want to end up like that.
Yes, this is worst case scenario, big time.
Yeah.
Usually on this show, we actually cast our own little line out and see who bites, and we like to have people Skype in to have some FaceTime with you guys in the Alpha chats there. And you guys know her. She's there every single week saying some brilliant things. Her name, you know her as Java Book Geek Girl. Java Book Geek Girl, am I not right?
Hi, guys.
Hi!
Tasha, how are you? Welcome on to the show. How exciting.
Thank you guys for having me again. It's good to see you all.
It's so good to see you.
Yeah.
Let's figure out my thing.
First question for
My
you.
turn.
First question for you, Java Book Geek Girl. What references have we missed in this book up to this point? Just let us know all of them.
Because we know you know them. We know you've got a notepad because you're just brilliant.
Yeah, because I'm a nerd and I've accepted that about myself. So this is my first time reading 1984. I've read other
Me too.
classic dystopian novels. I've done Brave New World, Handmaid's Tale. Those were my high school readings. So
The Giver, does that count?
I've
The
heard
Giver?
about 1984 for so long and just, never read it until now.
Sorry.
Well, no, but I think, yes, it's not an enjoyable read, but I think it's still an important read, especially with the times we're living in now. To just read those things, because I think, there's so many great points, and it's easy to just say, oh, this was written after World War II, this is all just a response to the atrocities that happened then, to Nazi Germany, to the Soviet Union at that time. But there are things that are still applicable today, and I think for me, one of the most powerful parts of the book for me was when O'Brien was explaining that Nazi Germany and the Soviets and Stalin, how they were very close and that they perfected it.
That's scary, isn't
And
it?
going through the explanation of how they perfected it, and particularly the fact that it wasn't about just killing whoever disagreed with the party, but changing them, and watching that process go through with Winston was terrifying. But also the reason it was so terrifying is because it's so realistic. It's the difference between when we read 1984 versus reading The Hunger Games or Divergent. There's enough fantasy and separation from our own reality with those books that you don't think oh, Hunger Games isn't going to happen. That's too out there. There's too many elements that aren't realistic to where we live. And 1984 is. Orwell was has many allusions to what was actually happening during World War II. The rewriting of history was tied to things that were happening in the Soviet Union during World War II, where photos were being doctored to take out certain leaders who were no longer aligned with whatever the Soviet Union's ideals were at the time, or certain German leaders. it was World War II style Photoshop.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to see, but I mean, like, the ideas he's writing about aren't just new original concepts. They were rooted in reality that was happening in that time. And now we're in a time today where technology is so advanced that it's almost even easier for those things to happen. I mean, look at what's happening with fake news and how we're buying into that so easily. Like, how many celebrities are getting called out because they retweet an article that's clearly fake news, but we don't take the time to read and be critical of it and compare it with other sources. We just soak it in and go with it. And that's for both sides. I mean, it doesn't, wherever you are on the political spectrum, everyone's doing it. I mean, I see it happen every day. So I think, I mean, that's one of the things about this book that I appreciate, is it just really makes you stop and think about things and learn not to just take something at face value. Like, you've got to be critical and have, in my academic studies, we called it a hermeneutic of suspicion, to not take things at face value, to always ask the questions of, like, why was this written? Who was this written for? Is there an agenda behind it? And not just having agenda is necessarily a bad thing, but asking those questions and being critical of it, of why is this being written? What context it's being written in?
Absolutely. Well, that's the importance, I think, of education and academia when you look at the proles and them being content because they're not challenging those things, because they're not being taught to think critically. And we have a very serious education problem in this country and in other countries where there is that lack of a skill set where you are taught to think critically and to challenge those ideas and to question. And that's part of why I think this is so great, and seeing the response to people wanting to read and wanting to discuss and wanting to challenge and look deeper, because I don't feel like we get a lot of that anymore.
Yeah.
I think a bit of a breath of fresh air, though, applying the things happening in the book to today's society. You were saying that the ability to doctor things is so much easier now, but the ability to lose history, I think, is becoming more and more impossible.
Yes.
Exactly. So even though there are alternative facts being thrown at us left, right, and centre, there is still evidence to contradict. And as long as we've got that, and as long as truth can prevail.
There's nothing better than when Donald Trump tweets a thing and somebody's like, but here's what you tweeted 8 months ago. Boom. There's nothing better. And as long as we hold on to that attitude of being able to reference the past, and everybody being so connected, we all have access to, and we all remember different things about history and any aspect of history. I could literally tweet out, what episode is that one Simpsons quote from? And 2 seconds later, somebody will, it's this Simpsons episode.
Yeah.
So,
whether they have to look it up themselves or whether they just bloody know.
Exactly. Exactly. So, Java Boogie Girl, everybody in the chat saying hi. They're saying hi to you. They're so happy.
Guys.
Lost the Number said that 1984, it can be an enjoyable educational read as a cautionary tale. I know that you were talking about the idea of this being more realistic as a world than something like The Hunger Games and other sort of dystopian
and I thought
future.
those are they're escapism books. They're ones to kind of go into that fantasy place. This
but
one,
well, they're also
I want to escape this
hopeful.
book.
Yeah,
They have a hero.
person.
They have a young person. They have a team. You find your other people, and even though Winston finds Julia, she's not quite as interested in.
Catch up, guys. Catch up. Let's get some progress going. Catch up here. Empty glass.
I told you guys we were going to need 2 bottles for this book,
I'm
y'all.
real sad.
That's quite a fruity wine, isn't it? What are you drinking, Java
Fruity.
Book?
Yeah, what are you drinking
Yeah.
I have what do I have? Hold on. A Malbec.
We've got Malbec as well.
Very nice. Yeah, very nice.
So,
Hey, Rachel, you were saying?
it doesn't matter. But I do have a question for you, because we've talked about this, and we have, for everyone who doesn't know, we have a new Goodreads group for Alpha Book Club. And one of the topics of discussion that I thought was really great was about, we've been kind of on a white male author streak as of recently, and I think that's a really valid point. So I just wanted to kind of talk to you about some of the books that you would recommend. Obviously, we'll be voting on different things each month. Next week we're doing a comic book. We'll be voting the week after that.
Written by another white male, but after that, hopefully.
But we started off with 2 females.
We
It's
did.
a great start.
We did, but I wanted to kind of get even just, I don't know about you guys, but I'm usually reading this book and maybe 2 other books at the same time.
Oh, I'd love to hear what everyone's reading
So
currently. Should we
I
do a
want to
lap?
hear recommendations, especially for some
I'm
of
just
the,
totally trying
the
not
writers.
to talk about this. That's all I'm doing. Well, quickly, we'll start with you, Rachel. What other books are you reading right now?
Right now, I just finished Big Little Lies.
Nice.
And then so that I could watch the show, and I'm about to actually start for researching an article that I want to write. I don't know if anyone read the Fear Street books
No.
by R.L. Stein. They were like the cool teen,
Edgy Goosebumps?
sexy murder version of Goosebumps that I read when I was a teenager. Seeing a trend here in the kinds of books that I read, and they're adapting a movie.
Fear Street.
And so I read all of them, but there's a trilogy of them that's about like this ancient evil like witchcraft thing, and I think that the movie should be about that instead of the like teen murder. Like they could go into. I have a whole theory, so I'm going to reread that trilogy so that I can speak to it.
Hector.
better.
I've been powering through a bunch of comic books right now, a bunch of the DC
Get out, you
Rebirth.
have
I
not.
have. I know. And I have, sitting at home, I've been wanting to reread, but I've also been putting it off, just in the off chance we ever do it here, A.C. Crispin's Han Solo book.
Yes.
That I need, I want to look at because I'm doing another thing for a work thing that I'm like, oh, I need to read this so that I can live and breathe in this world. But A.C. Crispin, she was a female writer. She passed away, and she went by A.C. Crispin, as a lot of authors do.
Yes.
Their pen name, their name will be something that could seem like it was written by a man.
Yeah, JK.
J.K.
But she was just like, oh, JK.
Just kidding, JK. So, other than that, I'm not reading anything, but I have a list of stuff that I want to get through. But I tell you, man, 1984 was a beast.
Yes.
Get out of me.
It just knocked the wind out of myself.
Java Bookie
Yeah,
Girl.
Java Bookie Girl, what are you reading?
Oh, she's gone. Come back. Java Bookie Girl.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Hector, I've been doing the same thing. I've been reading comics because I needed a break from 1984.
Yes, see?
So I actually just read. So comics is a new thing for me. I'm just getting really into them in the last year or so. But I read for the first time Ms. Marvel. Volume 1
Kamala
over the
Khan.
weekend,
Yes.
which is fantastic, and now
Don't
I'm going to
talk
spend
to
a
Brie
lot of money
Larson about
probably
Miss
at my next
Marvel.
paycheck catching up on it.
That's
More.
fantastic.
I don't know if anyone caught that.
I did.
And
What's
then
that?
actually Lumberjanes has been one
Shade?
that I've really,
Oh, I
just
love
as a fun
Lumberjanes.
read.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. I cannot wait for the
So
Lumberjanes.
if you just need a light, fun read
Yeah.
of just strong, powerful girls in a summer camp, that's the coolest summer camp ever.
That's
Check
cool.
out Lumberjanes.
They're making a movie, a Lumberjanes movie. Cannot wait for that. Lumberjanes
the
is also
whole team
crossing
behind
over with Gotham Central right now, which is another fun, all ages, like teen kid book
I've
where.
got Gotham Academy I want to get into.
That's what I meant. Gotham Academy.
Oh,
Gotham
yes,
Central
I'm in.
Gotham Central is a very gritty cop drama that you should not give to
Same
kids.
thing.
I
It's
I
really
felt
messed
so
up.
bad interrupting
Gotham
you
Academy.
as well.
No,
and I realized
please.
there was a greater force trying
You
to
need to
get a
woman-splain
point.
the hell out of that to me because I need to know. I need to get that right. So Gotham Academy is the name of that cute book. Java Bookie Girl. If you ever need any other recs, shoot me a text, shoot me a tweet, and because I got a lot of stuff covered in comics, and I love getting people into it. For people that are just getting dipping their toe, oh, I love it. There's so much great stuff historically to do analysis on. Fun stuff. It's great. I feel like I could teach a class on comics.
You should. There's a couple people in the chat.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan Pez says Kindred by Octavia Butler. I have read that one. That one's great. BR3058. Oh my God, I need to update my prescription. Also, thank you for your kind words earlier in the chat for watching along and welcome to the
BR,
live
first time
chat. If you
bird.
liked Girl on the Train and you haven't read any of Gillian Flynn's books, the Gone Girl is the famous one that was adapted into the movie, which is really great. But Sharp Objects is another one that's fantastic and kind of that pulpy mystery vibe that's going to be a TV show with Amy Adams.
Ooh, I love it.
And Chris Messina's going to be in it, who I love. So yeah, that's a good recommendation.
Big shout out. My turn to talk about what I'm into.
Yeah.
Jack Wright in the chat is reading Exile from the Drizzt series. How good are they? They're basically a Dungeons and Dragons campaign that R.A. Salvatore has put into 18, 22 books. And I think I read the first 12 and I'm really into those. You're going to have a blast. The way that he writes, he's a dark elf and I love the dark elves. The women are the superior gender, big time.
Sweet.
And they worship Lolth, who's a spider god. And the way that he talks about the fighting is just sexy. And he's reading Harry Potter. You're better than the other guy sitting next to me. What I'm reading though,
Me.
it wasn't even subtle. I'm reading, or listening to, I should say, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas.
I put that on my list after last week.
Finished that one and I'm on to the second book, Crown of Midnight, and I am enjoying those so much. Strong female lead in those books. Oh,
Strong
excited.
female lead over there.
All right,
Strong female leads.
And stripes.
Wait, I want to, before, we're avoiding talking about
And that's all we have time for.
and we'll shout this out at the end too, but since after next week where we're reading Old Man Logan, we're looking for our next book for April, and I want you to get a fantasy book in there, man. We haven't done any fantasy.
Yeah. Well, I've just finished Throne of Glass, so I'm going to put that forward. How's that?
Okay.
By Sarah, and she's a woman, so
Great.
female author. Yes,
This is next week.
isn't it?
This is next week.
Awesome.
It's gonna
And
be
then after
great.
that, book of your choosing. So yeah, we get those recs. Get those recs.
Awesome.
Recs
So, what do you recommend? What do you think we should read next?
So I did a lot of searching because I'm a big fantasy person, but I have not read any fantasy books by women authors. So I did a Google search. God bless Google. To get a lot, which I have a giant list in the Goodreads group. So if you go there, I have a tie list by women of color that's mostly fantasy and sci-fi.
Amazing.
But I just got it was on sale on Amazon. The 5th season by N.K. Jemisin, I think is fantasy, and I've heard really good things about a female author.
Cool.
So that's one that I'm hoping to read soon. The other that I saw that I'm really interested in, also fantasy, The Winged Histories by Sophia Samatar, I think is how her name is spelled, said. Features all female leads. NPR had it on its like best fantasy books of 2015 or 16. So that's also on my to read list.
Hey, Java Book
They
Geek
both
Girl,
look
can you
great.
tweet me that,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah.
Because I want that on my eyeballs to read.
Great.
That would be amazing.
Awesome.
Alpha Courtney loved Throne of Glass as well, halfway through Crown of Midnight. Haha. Yes. Oh, we're going to chat about that. That's for
love
sure.
it.
I just
it
saw
so
too
much.
that Obi-Wan Pez said I was reading Illustrated Man, yay Ray Bradbury, but got Ready Player One from the library, so I need to finish that first. When you do, you should go back and watch. We did Ready Player One a couple of months ago,
Yeah.
and we had
Good
quite
discussions.
a time
Good discussions.
with that one. That one was
Yeah.
fun, so you should check that out if you haven't seen it
And
yet
I
after you finish it.
this makes my little heart so happy. Lost the Number says, I visited my local comic store to get my copy of Old Man Logan last weekend. Yes.
I hope it was a good experience.
I hope they were nice. They're real crapshoot sometimes. You walk in there. Real crapshoot comic book stores. Yeah.
Alrighty, it's
boy.
Java Book Geek Girl. Great chat. Love those recommendations. Definitely tweet us. We'll see you in the Goodreads as well, and we'll see you in the chat every show because you are fantastic. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you so much for being great.
Cheers.
Your words of wisdom.
To Java
wash
Book
over
Geek
us.
Girl.
Lovely.
Yes. And the
Love
Alpha
you
Book
all.
Club.
Yes.
Thanks.
She's the best.
And now we're
Bye.
going to get back into this song. Okay.
All
She's
right.
got the best brain. I love it.
I
know.
love it too. I love people
So
who are
much
like,
fun.
just are so smart.
Yeah. We need more of those people. We need, what's that?
I'm sapiosexual.
Yep.
Attracted to intelligence.
That's it.
Me too.
Boom.
Boom.
Yeah.
There we
boom.
go. So let's get into it. Let me share my favorite, before we get into any of this crap, I want to share my favorite part of the book, and I'll do it with a British accent.
Yeah.
Great.
What page, sorry, so we can read
This
along?
is 233, bottom of page 233.
I flagged it.
In this
Yes.
scene, Winston is in a jail cell or something, no windows, and this big old portly guy comes in. That dude who he was Parsons, I think was his name, right?
Yeah.
It's Jim
This was
Parsons.
The neighbor.
His neighbor.
The neighbor, who, well, I'll just read. He made a few more jerky movements up and down, several times casting a longing glance at the lavatory pan. Then he suddenly ripped down his shorts.
God.
"Excuse me, old man," he said. "I can't help it. It's the waiting." He plumped his large posterior onto the lavatory pan. Winston covered his face with his
can do this
hands.
Smith,
Yelled the voice from the telescreen.
6079, Smith W, uncover your face. No face is covered in the cells.
Winston uncovered his face. Parsons used the lavatory, loudly and abundantly. It then turned out that the plug was defective, and the cells stank abominably for hours afterwards. That's it. That's my favorite
He
section.
plumped down. Like,
1984, y'all. They had to put in a poop joke. They put in a poop joke because it got
Gotta
so
put the
bleak that
poop-
he's
But-
like, "I'm gonna make you laugh with a poop joke real quick."
No, it didn't make me laugh at all. I could taste it in
Yeah,
my
it was
mouth.
disgusting.
It was like this dank
you were like-
sewage kind of, and you could hear like the bog of eternal stench from the labyrinth. came to
Yes.
mind, where I was just like, Ludo sad.
And it's like,
Glop.
Maybe I'm
what
giving Georgie too much credit, but I really did think it was like him trying to lighten the mood. He's like, "All right, here's going to be a portly gentleman using the toilet, which we all think is super funny in 1949. So let's laugh at him because it got real sad a second ago, and then we'll get back into the sadness."
Oh, I even felt like this is a man. No, I didn't see any humor in this at all. He was like, "I'm so sorry that you have to witness it. We have no privacy.
Sure.
I can't help this. I'm absolutely rattled to the core."
Part of taking away somebody's humanity
Yes.
is to make them go to the bathroom like an animal. That's
Yep.
part of it.
Yep.
So yeah.
I dog-eared this page for a different reason.
I was really hoping nobody took that. That was my section.
And this was, are you guilty? Of course I'm guilty. And he basically goes, I'm so guilty that I'm glad they got me now because this would have continued.
Yeah.
And I'm talking in my sleep, so the things that I can't control is what's betraying me. And he's like, well, how did this happen? How were you reported? My daughter, I'm very proud of her. Ooh, isn't that the worst thing?
Yeah.
My daughter reported me, and not even like, I'm mortified that I was adopted by my own child. I'm so proud of her. I can't even be mad. This is a good thing that I'm here.
I hate it.
So that kind of got me going. There was a lot of dog-eared pages in this chapter. Is there any moments standing out for you?
Mine was actually the very end because, this being here, and no bullshit, this is one of my favorite times of the week to be able to, when we've talked about this on the show, when I was younger and I would read all the time and I always wanted to talk to other people about books and no one ever wanted to.
That has been, can I just real quickly say, that's been one of the things in my young adult life into my adulthood that has put me off of reading, was the fact that it was not a communal experience unless you made it a communal experience. With comic books, I felt like it's easier to get people, it's easier to get friends to read something. I literally let somebody borrow it. You get hooked faster, it's a shorter, quicker read. So I remember being young and I would be interested in certain books and I wouldn't read them because I felt like it might be too isolated it's a very isolated experience reading, it can be. So this is fantastic, this is great.
I love that. And so, again, about the power of reading, of learning, of language. And so at the very end, he said, it's a little bit long, but I'll read it anyway.
What page?
311. When old speak had been once and for all superseded, the last link with the past would have been severed. History had already been rewritten, but fragments of the literature of the past survived here and there, imperfectly censored, and so long as one retained one's knowledge of old speak, it was possible to read them. In the future, such fragments, even if they chanced to survive, would be unintelligible and untranslatable. It was impossible to translate any passage of Old Speak into Newspeak unless it either referred to some technical process or some very simple everyday action, or was already orthodox. In practice, this meant that no book written before approximately 1960 could be translated as a whole. Pre-revolutionary literature could only be subjected to ideological translation, that is, alteration in sense as well as language. Take, for example, the well-known passage from the Declaration of Independence, which we know.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, blah, blah.
Guys.
Oh, that's right.
That all men
I
are...
don't know this either. I'm not memorized.
Yeah. That all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of those ends, it is the right of the people, which is what this is about. It is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government. But then it goes into a good deal of the, they translate the literature and it says, a good deal of the literature of the past was indeed already being transformed in this way. Considerations of prestige made it desirable to preserve the memory of certain historical figures, while at the same time bringing their achievements into line with the philosophy of Ingstock. Various writers, such as Shakespeare, Milton, Swift, Byron, Dickens, and some others, were therefore in the process of translation. When the task had been completed, their original writings, with all else that survived of the literature of the past, would be destroyed.
Did you just throw your book?
No! I'm gonna cry thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
It's so upsetting, and it's one of those things that that's a little worrisome for me about the internet. Just having been
Condensing our
someone
language.
who. But also, I wrote for a website for 2 years that the person who ran it didn't turn out to be. It didn't turn out well, and the website disappeared. And I had
doesn't
some.
exist anymore.
Yeah, and I had some PDFs of my work,
Yeah.
but a lot of it I didn't. And I know current websites that have been bought by other places or different things where.
Oh, what about entire channels where you've done videos have been defunct?
That's really scary.
And so
And then in other places on the internet, the website for the 1996 film Space Jam is still up and running. So that's cool. But there's been lots of
there's
cases.
not a control. It's less controlled than a physical copy that you can retain.
I know.
And that's the whole thing about one of our most popular articles ever on Nerdist was all about net neutrality and the sort of the warning of and just educating about what that means and what it could mean, and the pros and cons and all that stuff. And there's so many ways that information can be controlled. We remember history, we can look it up right now, but that could change, and our dependence on, I have a friend who lives in Berlin. When I went to go visit her, she's moving into a new apartment, and she was like, I'm so mad because I don't have internet in my new apartment, and I am so reliant on it. And it's like, it's the same, we were talking about at one point, bug out bags and zombie apocalypse.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's like, I mean, it's the grid that's gonna be dead in the credits. But it's the thing that I pictured in my head. But it's the thing, it's that thing where like if we lost electricity and the internet and all that stuff, like all bets are off at that point. And that just made me so sad that something that has brought me so much joy, that's brought so many people, and the power of storytelling and what's happening here, that could just be erased.
Yeah.
That Shakespeare could be erased.
Nothing is forever, guys. Nothing is forever.
But literature can be.
That's true. Well, I mean, this last passage kind of reflected in a way for me where it was like when we discovered hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's a language we've never learnt. We don't know it all. No one can, like, even with collective minds, we really can't figure out what the hieroglyphics stand for. But what it is we can still interpret it. So whatever symbol is, there's about 5 words that you could use in place of that. What's happening in this book, you're reducing language. So the hardest part is to go from fewer words to try and expand that if they don't exist. So that's what I'm scared of. This is 140 characters. This is
LOL, I don't see that happening.
Oh, you missed the shade sip. It was a shade sip.
I don't know what you're talking about. JK.
JK lol.
A little side glance. Some great things happening in the comments as well. 2 + 2 = 5, and that is essentially what the last book 3, the last third that we all hated. It was trying to convince a grown man who knows maths very, very simply that 2 + 2. How many fingers am I holding up? How many? How many?
Oh my God! It made
5.
me love the episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation so much more, where Patrick Stewart is being tortured. Jean-Luc Picard is being tortured.
The one where he wakes up and it's been years.
No.
Okay.
I didn't know it at the time, but he's being tortured by a Cardassian, not a Kardashian, a Cardassian.
Both are quite torturous.
Yes, both one and the same. But this was back when Cardassian was worse than Kardashian. But this guy was torturing Jean-Luc Picard. This was a reference to 1984. Instead of fingers, it was lights. And they were telling him there are 3 lights or there are 5 lights. And Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart kept yelling, "There are 4 lights," and he would not break.
Right.
When they threw up 4, and they're like, "There's 5. How many are there?" "There are 4 lights," and he wouldn't break. And that episode showed that torture isn't effective, because it can be absolutely. It's been proven. There's been studies that have shown that it is ineffective in the ways that people will say whatever you want them to say.
Yes.
In this entire last section of the book, I was "Yep,
I will confess
anything." So it's
anything
like
you
things I
want.
didn't do.
I will say it.
So it's not reliable.
But then but it is through that process, I don't think that it is actually effective. But because this is the worst case scenario, it feels like it is.
I think what they did, he goes, it's not just torture. I mean, if you're a problem, we would just shoot you. We'd put a bullet in the head. But we are going to not only torture you, we're going to break you, we're going to destroy you. We're going to transform you into a person that you are disgusted to see. I'm going to rip out your tooth from your face to show you that you are not only breaking, you are broken. Then I'm going to build you back. I'm going to brainwash you. I'm going to threaten every person that you love. In fact, they're already kind of dead or going anyway. And then it was like, we're going to use your darkest fears against you. Now, I played a VHS game, which was called Atmosphere, and you had to write on a bit of paper what you were scared of the most and put it in a little tub.
I think I played
It's a nightmare as well. Yeah, there was an Atmosphere version. And every time when I was 9-year-old Maude would be like, cane toads. Now, you guys don't know cane toads because you didn't grow up with cane toads.
No.
Oh, you know.
It's referenced in The Simpsons.
Oh,
cane toads.
Yeah.
They're
cane
everywhere.
toads are frightening.
They are
a giant slug of a cowpat frog, which is a toad, but it's got poisonous glands. They have no natural predator.
And they brought to Australia.
It's literally like a cowpat was able to jump, but I don't even like frogs now because of it, and they're all over Queensland.
Well, we have one
phobic.
right behind you in the glass case.
I'm so phobic of it. And if you like put them all over my body, I would be like, do it to my family. Oh no! And it was rats for Winston. But I want to know from you guys and in the chat,
What's your worst
what
fear?
would your fear be?
Jesus Christ!
What would be the thing that would break you to completely forfeit your love for any other person. Because that's what they were doing. Essentially, as soon as you say, do it to this person instead of me, the person that I love, you cease loving that person because you realized you were able to betray them. That's effect. What would your thing be, guys?
Well,
Drowning, burning alive. These were some of the examples O'Brien gave. If you need a little bit of a nudge.
Burning
My nose is
alive's a
blocked, getting
solid
upset.
one.
Burning alive?
Burning alive is
Yeah.
a pretty good one because that's painful.
I'm not scared of that one because I'm not as scared of it because I heard that like you pass out from fumes.
That's true.
And
Yeah,
then,
but I think that if you were
That's if you're in a fire, not if
Gasoline
you're
set on
literally
fire.
set
I
on.
see what you're saying.
Although
but
that
I
would
think,
be pretty
I
fast.
think that in that case, still the pain is so great that your body literally goes unconscious and then you burn to death. I think, and then I've also heard in some movie or something as a joke that like drowning is like God giving you a big wet hug. So I don't even necessarily fear drowning as much.
Oh my God.
If we're talking about the thing that would give me the most panic
Yeah.
and makes me sick to think about, it would probably be
Cane
being
toads.
pushed. What? No,
Don't
being
even
like
joke about
pushed
that.
out of a plane, like being.
I was gonna say heights is mine too. Heights is mine too.
If I had
Big
to like be
time.
pushed out of a plane and do skydiving,
just falling to your death.
whoa, no.
I've been on like on like skyscrapers.
Even getting up there, if I
Yeah,
didn't
no,
have
I'm the same.
some
parking
help.
structures that are like 6 stories tall. My friends have fucked with me because they know that I'm scared of heights. Where like I'll be near the edge and they'll kind of do this.
I don't like
and
that.
in that moment, I want to kill my best friend. Like in
Yeah.
that moment,
My
I'm like,
brother.
I hate you. How could you dare?
They'll
but
push
yourself?
you and then pull you back and be like, saved your life.
Just kidding, man. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
If someone did that to me, I would not be friends with them
Yeah.
again. I'm not
Yeah.
even like I can't
Yeah.
even when people joke about being near a ledge, I'm like I will stop being friends with you if you don't.
Yeah,
stop
when they do
fighting
this,
with me.
ooh, and
Yeah.
you're like, and you're just like,
Those videos that have like people just like kind of trolloping along on the sides of skyscrapers.
I'm
with
like getting
thin
physical
beams.
chills thinking about
those GoPro videos where they're like, look, I'm on the top of a tower in
on the
Beijing or
slide. Yeah, but
something.
then you
I'm
read
like,
another
I'm out.
article.
There was that downtown
Yeah, I think it's still there. Or did they
skyscraper
take it
where
away?
they were doing slides down it, and someone
glass
here was
slide.
like, "We should do that." And I was like, "I don't want to
No.
even look at it. I'm not going to give notes on it. Like I can't watch it."
Yeah.
I am so fine with being in a safe little bubble where nothing bad happens ever. Wolverine 6170 has said, in an ocean on a boat with no light.
Oh,
I would
wow.
vomit everywhere a lot.
Oh yeah,
That's
deep
very
sea.
Wolverine.
Oh my God, lost the numbers. Being eaten by pigs feet first. Hannibal.
Hannibal.
Taught me about that one. That nightmare.
That's is it Mason?
Being eaten by a dang pig.
Oh yeah.
Taking away my
Are you-
RPG dice says Plague Win. Okay, that's a little.
Lost the numbers. Do you mean book Hannibal, show Hannibal, or Gary Oldman is definitely the guy who gets fed to pig? Is it Mason?
It also appears in Snatch. Get the pigs. Yeah, gotta breed
That's
those
pretty.
pigs.
Being eaten alive by an animal would be pretty bad.
I would not like to be not on the top of the food
You know
chain.
what's messed up?
I
Is
would
that-
not want to be shut out by an animal, is what I'm trying
Oh.
to say. Imagine you end up being
Sure,
something
sure.
else's shit. Oh, it'd be bad.
It depends. If it was like a brought back to life Velociraptor or Tyrannosaurus Rex, it'd be a pretty cool way to go. It'd be pretty boss.
I love dinosaurs.
I've said this before, and people in internet land have been like, "No, it's cool, man. I'll back you up." But one of my greatest fears is to be alone in the South in the United States. Sometimes I have that thought where I'm like, I don't want to do anywhere near that. No. That might in certain places that would scare me. That
I think that's
isolation,
absolutely fair.
along with being in certain regions of the United States. But then people have very nicely on the internet been like, "No, man, I'm in the South. I got your back. Like you're welcome here. You're my friend.
You're
You're
like,
cool."
"What's your number?"
Yeah, I'm like, "Cool. What's your number?" It's like an emergency text you in case somebody kidnaps me and just dumps me there.
Yeah.
It was Show Hannibal, by the way.
Show.
And Obi-Wan Pez PSA, drowning in salt water is terrible. You actually hemorrhage because the salt rips your cells' water through the membranes, bursting blood vessels.
becomes
Yeah.
out.
No.
So
I'm going to need a little bit more.
would you
My mic's
guys
messed up.
recommend this
Thank you for the feedback.
Yes.
to someone else?
I thought about it, but yes. Let me tell you where. Not in high school, because I feel like high school minds are too young that they would find it boring and they would miss stuff. But I would give them shit like The Giver,
Yeah.
Hunger Games,
loved The
dystopian fiction that has young protagonists. But I think that this needs to be required viewing in any sort of college course. You go to
Yeah.
a regular 4-year college or any sort of a university, any school where you're college age and you're going through regular classes, English, literature, whatever. This needs to be required reading, and I think people in their 20s should be reading this.
Sorry, being flayed. being skinned alive and bleeding out.
Okay, Maude, we moved on from that.
No.
Maude,
What
we
if
moved
Willow
on.
does it because it's really fast?
What if somebody sucks your eyeballs out?
Oh,
What if, can you imagine dying by being deatomized?
no!
I think that would be
not so
I
bad.
don't know if you'd feel it.
being slowly dipped into lava.
Oh
Ooh,
yeah, 'cause
or
but
acid.
again, all those crazy ones. I just feel like
Steamroller.
again, you get up
Slow.
here and the pain makes you like pass out, and then
Does
you
it
just
though,
die.
you?
Like in A Fish Called Wanda, where it's like,
Yeah. But you would vomit out your organs. at
Remember when
some
Indiana
stage.
Jones punched that guy and then he got steamrolled and he was a red smear? I don't want to die like
Yeah,
that.
no, that would be so bad.
I wanna die like
Let's not
that.
talk about this. Who actually watched the movie though? Super quickly.
Didn't have a chance.
I couldn't. I wanted to, but then
Right when putting the book down, the last thing I want to do is like, let's watch that movie.
I
Well, I did.
I know. We
How was
all
it?
said we were going to. We
Yeah.
failed you.
Well, I watched the 1984 version, which was actually filmed around April 4th to April 15th, which is
Yeah.
when the book is supposed to take place.
Yeah.
And I know that BR 305893 actually put a link in the chat saying that apparently there's 100 cinemas or so, I read in the link description, 100 cinemas that are actually going to be playing 1984 on April 4th.
Wow.
And I think it could be to commemorate that. The movie that was filmed in 1984 was released in December of that year.
With John Hurt.
With John Hurt, which you can see right
might
now.
do
So this is
that.
what I watched. It's actually, guys, it's on YouTube.
Yes.
And this is what I thought was really interesting. I watched it all on YouTube and then I went through the comments, and all of the comments, like a big chunk of them, are from the last 4 or 5 months.
Yes, people are seeking this out.
It's sold
people are
out.
wanting to.
It's sold out on Amazon. That's crazy.
Yeah, so people are actually wanting to kind of like reconnect with a potential future that none of us want remotely.
You know how YouTube, a lot of times on a video, if it's like a music video, people will comment like what brought them there? Well, they'll be like, oh,
Yes.
this movie brought me here, or this so-and-so other video brought me here. Were people saying like, the presidency of Donald Trump brought me here? Were
They
people
were
doing
all
that?
saying, wow, this
Yeah.
is, we're back here
Yes.
again, are
Yeah.
we? All that kind of stuff. I did write notes about the movies, about the movie for you guys, and I'll just repeat what I wrote. Oh, guess what? It was just as fucking bleak as the book.
I'm so sorry.
It hurt, pun, to watch.
John Hurt.
Aw.
John Hurt.
There's some
in
titties
peace.
though, and a little bit of fafasha, if you're into that kind of stuff.
Hafesha?
Yeah, I don't remember. I would
A
have
lot
watched
of
that when I
fafasha?
was like
Fafasha?
15 or 16. It's enough fafasha for me to want to see it. Yeah, that's what we're going with. Alrighty, so let's talk about next week, because now, we're done with that.
Yes.
What did I take out?
And I take out my lighter and burn this bad boy.
No, burning
451.
books is not the
Fahrenheit
answer.
451. That
Yeah,
sucks.
God,
It's fighting again.
nothing.
But this book is lit. Get it? All right, here we go.
Preserve. So
Boo.
next week we are reading all of Old Man Logan. How many pages are in that one?
Don't worry, there's pictures. Don't worry about it.
It's a
It's gonna
picture-
go by real
it's a
quick. It'll
picture
take
book.
you
I'm
about
really excited.
it'll take you about 40 minutes to read.
yeah.
40 minutes.
I
put
recommend
40 minutes aside.
one of 2 movie soundtracks to put on while you're listening.
Ooh,
to
yeah,
this bad
I'm gonna
boy.
do that
First
for
of all,
this.
Logan, Adoy Logan, or also, if you like the film, I would recommend the Book of Eli soundtrack, a movie starring Denzel Washington. It's a great post-apocalyptic soundtrack. I listen to
By-
it whenever I read Walking
this
Dead.
Gary Whitta, author of or screenwriter of
Yes,
Rogue
Gary
One.
Whitta, who is awesome on Twitter.
Yeah,
he
he's a
he came
super
up with
cool
that story
dude.
for Book
Widow
of Eli.
was awesome
Great
on
movie.
Twitter. Are you kidding me right now?
What's that?
You just said Widow was awesome on Twitter, and I'm supposed
Yeah.
to ignore that? Go on.
Because the way I said it with my dumb accent, they didn't rhyme.
Oh,
Yeah, Gary Whitta, awesome on Twitter.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, I've got this one then. Okay, so reading the entire thing. And then, of course, when April comes around, which is very, very soon, only 8 or 9 days or so, we need a
Time.
book. So we are looking for our final suggestions. We did go around what we're reading currently. I do want to put forward Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Again, it's a rhyme. Probably not for anyone else. No, it's not. I get to rhyme all the time with my language. Oh, yeah, that's a nice little hulkage.
Oh, so I want to throw out American Gods for
Yes.
next month because the show premieres April 30th, so we will have finished the book by the time the show
That's kind of perfect, isn't it?
premieres. And we had the cast come by our stage at South by Southwest, and they are super awesome. I'm so excited. Hannibal fans, Brian Fuller is doing the show.
Star Trek fans, he left Star
You know
Trek to
what?
do this show.
He's still.
He's an executive producer,
He's
yeah.
involved, but yes. But I would love to try to entice some people from American Gods to come talk to us in some way, shape, or form. So this is me trying to bribe you to vote for
We
my
can't
book.
do it if we're not reading it.
So I can try my best. So we'll see.
But it's always going to be up to you guys.
Yes.
It's always going to be up to you guys. Whatever
we can
the book.
always read it too.
We'd love American
we can read it
Gods.
after it's over, the show's over too. We can switch things around.
Absolutely, we'd love like to see a couple episodes of the show and then tackle it in a later month. We'd love to do books like at some point Jurassic Park,
Yes.
Harry Potter,
Golden
Compass. What else have we talked about?
Well,
before?
Plague Wind has posted potential
Solo
books
book.
in
Which
the
one?
Goodread.
No.
Veto.
No.
Ha!
No.
Different
I
seasons
do
by
love
Stephen
Anna
King.
Karenina, but it's long as shit. We're not doing that one.
Get those recommendations in at Nerdist, at Geek and Sundry, or at Join Team Alpha with that hashtag Alpha Book Club. Good on Plague Wind for posting potential books in the Goodreads group as well. That's fantastic. Make your vote count though, because we always do that one via the Join Team Alpha Twitter account as well. That's where it all happens. We all retweet that as well. At Rachel Heine, at Hector is Funny, at Maude Garrett. So we are done with 1984. That's so exciting. Brian can't contain himself.
You knew our Twitters without looking at anything. You just knew them.
I knew them.
That's so nice. That's so great.
Hey, stick around
We're
for
real
the
life friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. The next episode coming up, it's Crafting Comics with Jim Higgins and Tiffany Smith. It starts at 8 o'clock PST right here on Alpha. Enjoy that one. They'll tell you how to get into the beers and how to make it look good. Hector, that sounds like your jam as well.
Oh yeah, that show is rad. It's fantastic.
All right. I can't breathe out my nose. Bye, guys.
Bye.